Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there was a beautiful queen. One winter day, she was sewing by a window as snowflakes fell outside. While sewing, she pricked her finger, and 3 drops of red blood fell onto the snow. She looked at the blood on the snow and thought, "I wish I had a daughter with skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as ebony." Her wish was granted, and soon she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, whom she named Snow White. Tragically, the queen passed away shortly after. A few years later, the king remarried a woman who was beautiful, but vain and cruel. She had a magical mirror that she would consult every day. She would ask, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And the mirror would reply, "You, my queen, are the fairest of them all." Years passed, and Snow White grew up to be more beautiful than anyone in the land. One day, when the queen asked her mirror the same question, it replied, "Queen, you are beautiful, but Snow White is the fairest of them all." This filled the queen with jealousy and rage. She decided to get rid of Snow White. The queen summoned a huntsman and ordered him to take Snow White into the forest and kill her. As proof, she demanded that he bring back Snow White's heart. The huntsman, however, could not bring himself to harm the innocent girl. Instead, he let her go, and told her to run far away. To deceive the queen, he brought back the heart of a wild animal. Lost and frightened, Snow White wandered through the forest until she came across a small cottage. Inside, everything was tiny, tiny chairs, tiny beds, and tiny dishes. Exhausted, she lay down on one of the beds and fell asleep. That evening, the 7 dwarfs who lived in the cottage returned home. They found Snow White asleep and were enchanted by her beauty. When she woke up, she told them her story. The dwarfs took pity on her, and invited her to stay with them, warning her to be careful of the evil queen. When the queen asked her mirror again, it revealed that Snow White was still alive and living with the 7 dwarfs. Furious, the queen devised 3 wicked plans to kill Snow White. Disguised as an old peddler woman, the queen visited Snow White, and gave her a lace corset. She tied it so tightly that Snow White fainted. Luckily, the dwarfs returned in time and loosened the corset, saving her life. The poisoned comb. The queen came again, disguised as a different woman, and offered Snow White a beautiful comb. When Snow White used it, the poisoned comb made her collapse. Once again, the dwarfs saved her. The poisoned apple. Finally, the queen created a poisoned apple, disguising herself as an old peasant. She offered Snow White the apple, and as soon as Snow White took a bite, she fell into a death-like sleep. This time, the dwarfs could not wake her. Believing her to be dead, they placed her in a glass coffin. One day, a prince passed by and saw Snow White lying in the glass coffin. He was mesmerized by her beauty, and asked the dwarfs if he could take her to his castle. Reluctantly, they agreed. As the prince's servants carried the coffin, they stumbled, and the piece of poisoned apple lodged in Snow White's throat came loose. She woke up alive and well. The prince and Snow White fell in love and decided to marry. When the queen learned about the wedding, she asked her mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" The mirror replied, "The new queen, Snow White, is the fairest of them all." Enraged, the queen attended the wedding to confront Snow White, but her evil deeds were revealed. She was punished, and Snow White and the prince lived happily ever after. This story teaches us that goodness and innocence always triumph over evil and jealousy.